Hi everyone, before we jump into this week's episode, I wanted to remind you about the Systems and Processes Health Check that I now offer. This is an 8-week program where we work together one-on-one to look at the systems and processes in your business. I've been working with several designers already on this and they are seeing real results, real tangible results in the 8 weeks and making big differences to their business. If you would like to work with me through the 8-week health check, please follow the link in the show notes or you can find more information on my website. I'm looking forward to working with you.
I think designers often have this FOMO, putting pressure on themselves situation where they're constantly measuring their success against another designer's success. And I have even seen it go to the point where they won't even put the work up because they're afraid of it being judged by other designers and what they might think or what client might think or how it might not get them the next client. And it's just like, you've got to let that go.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. And this week I am joined by an international guest. We have Laurie Laizure with us. Hi Laurie.
Hi.
Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with Laurie, I reckon you know her Instagram account, which is Interior Design Community. And it is one of those really lovely parts of Instagram that is just full of so much positivity. So thank you for joining us, Laurie. I always love to start each of our podcasts by finding out, what can you see out your window today?
Well, it's dark, so pretty much black. There's nothing out my way. Nothing really. But if it was daytime, it would be fall leaves because, we're in New Hampshire. So my tree outside has bright yellow leaves. So that's always nice. And we're all windows here. So it's really nice to see all the leaves changing.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit about your business and the community and why you started the community and how you've got to where you are today.
So Interior Design Community sort of started by accident, I want to say, because I, at the time, came from the printing industry. I was in the fine art clay industry, and I came across this material that was brand new at the time that was a peel and stick wallpaper. And I knew it was going to be a big hit. I mean, this is 12 years ago and it was just starting like becoming a thing. Yeah. I tested about 30 different products that were being manufactured on the manufacturing side. And I had come from, I was a consumable products manager. So I knew a lot about testing products and making sure they were the best. And I found the best wallpaper that was repositionable. You could pull it off and you could restick it. It wouldn't like take off the paint or anything. And so it was really interesting. And I definitely wanted to get to know designers. And at the same time, we were developing a website that had an e-commerce platform. And so I was learning a lot about SEO and websites and social media and growing that and Pinterest and scheduling tools. All of that Pinterest was new. Instagram wasn't even there yet. We started on Google+. So I was sort of thinking I would just share information and that would be a way to learn, to meet designers. And I originally went on Twitter, and Twitter had this thing called Interior Design Chat. And I it was like a hashtag interior design chat, and they would meet once a week. And I did that. I got to know some designers that way. And then, but you really, I mean, it's 120 characters, so you couldn't really get into an in-depth conversation. And it was a lot of like retweeting, like one person would come up with a good idea and everybody would retweet it. And it was like, this is not really going the way I want. So Google at the time, Google Plus was the greatest place to index your blog posts. They would instantly index them if you put that link on Google Plus at the time. And so Google Plus started a thing called communities. And I thought, I'll just be interior design community and then I'll get to know interior designers.
Yeah.
So I started interior design community as a little group, and I never expected it to go, I thought maybe 100 people would someday join. And we had, I think, 200 the first day. And it grew so much faster than the custom wallpaper business that I ended up selling the custom wallpaper business and focusing on interior design community, because it was absolutely needed to have a resource where people could come together and share information and learn from one another about navigating this crazy world of working in the design industry. And so much of it involved digital marketing and websites and all sorts of things that designers didn't want to have to do, but are forced to do. And so we thought, I mean, how can we give them resources so that they can learn from each other and find the best tips and tricks and grow from there. And now 12 years later, we have this vibrant community of people who are amazing to each other. Just we sort of operate like a sorority, like you're in an interior design community, you're one of our people, everybody will help you, and that's kind of the culture we've tried to make happen. And it's been really, really great. We love it. We love the designers. Everything I think about is, everything that I'm motivated for an interior design community is how can I improve the lives of an interior designer, whatever that might be. That's all I'm trying to do.
Oh, that's so lovely. And I find the timing really interesting. So quite often I've had conversations with the designers around how the industry would be called almost closed off, like no one would talk about their fees or how they manage that kind of thing. And then quite often it's like in the last maybe 7 to 10 years, it's really kind of opened up. People are much more collaborative. They'll share, they're supportive kind of thing. So it's really interesting, kind of that really echoes what you were finding. There was obviously a hunger for that.
Well, I think I was completely naive. I had no idea that was the case. And I think my naivete really worked for me, because I just kind of was like, of course you'll share what you know. That will help someone else. Why wouldn't you want to help other people? And I just stumbled my way in, being the person I am. That is like, you're going to be positive about this. You're going to help someone else, and it made people that might have been more afraid to do that. But I also think just the internet in general, you're not sharing with a person that you might view as your local competitor. You're sharing with somebody who could be across the country. And that made people feel a lot more comfortable to give people tips and tricks. And also, it resonated with them that like, oh, you're going through that, I'm going through that. And sometimes that solidarity is really more important than even a solution.
Yeah, because so often, especially if you work for yourself or it's a small firm kind of thing, you kind of like, oh, that I'm doing something wrong, or I'm not a great designer, or there's something wrong with me and the way I'm running my business. And then you kind of hear that someone else is having the same problem, or several people are having the same problem. And it's like, oh, it's not me. It's
not you.
Like it's someone else kind of thing. And it can be it's so reassuring, because, I think it's human nature. I think it's part of being a creative. We do have imposter syndrome and second guess ourselves all the time kind of thing. So having that kind of reassurance that no, it's not me, it's them.
It's inherently part of the job. That's the key. It's inherently part. It's this is just what it is. And I love, one of the things that I love about interior design community, I really push the designers who are more experienced to comment, because it is so gratifying when you see a designer that you really respect say, yes, I went through this problem. And we'll have, HGTV stars, or, designers who've been in every magazine
Yep.
comment. And when you see someone that at that level take the time to say, yes, I went through that problem. This is how I handled it. Even if it's like a few, sentences, it creates such a great feedback for those other designers who are going through, because then they're like, okay, even the person at the top of their game has this problem. Okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
This is a hard business. I'm okay. I'm going to get through it too. And just that perspective, I think,
Yeah.
is so important. It's just that perspective that I think just being in the middle is always going to be hard, no matter what you do, because you're not in control
No.
of so many moving parts. You're not in control of whether the tradesperson put the tile in correctly, or whether the furniture came in broken. You're just managing all of it. You're just the
Yeah.
person who's making it all happen.
Exactly. But yeah, it is hard. But I think, yeah, I find it so. I think it's so lovely that now we work in an industry where sharing and openness and, that whole saying of like, the we all rise together, like I think
Hmm.
is it's such a lovely kind of part of the industry at the moment.
I
Um
love it. I mean, there will always be gatekeepers in this
yeah,
industry. There will always be a level of exclusivity and people who want to keep other people out. But I think that overall the culture has shifted. And, I can tell you, when I first went to High Point Market, even just, um, the diversity in the market has completely changed. When I first went to High Point Market, I thought, wow, there's just a lot of blonde women here. And now you go to market and it's, people of every ethnicity. There's just, men, obviously still more women than men, but lots of different diversity. And it's just wonderful to see how inclusive
mm,
the industry is becoming. And I just see so many wonderful things happening because of that inclusivity,
yeah,
because we are sharing information. It allows other people to see themselves in this industry. And that's just a beautiful thing.
yeah, it's really lovely. So
Yeah,
you are talking to designers all the time, as am
all the
I.
time.
What
All day
are some
long.
of the things that you're seeing designers struggling with at the moment?
Well, I think post COVID, we have a lot of supply chain issues. The inflation costs have gone up, and designers are really struggling with work life balance. They're really struggling to guard their emotional health and mental health. I think that there's a lot of pressure from clients, and designers are feeling that pressure quite a bit. It's very overwhelming time for interior designers, and I think that they are needing good boundaries even more than they've ever have, needing better contracts than they ever have, needing to be very careful about protecting, themselves in
Yeah,
getting into client relationships that are going to work for them and their business. And that's a tricky thing to do, because everybody wants to make money too.
yeah,
And so, making sure you're picking the right clients for you that are easier to work with, and protecting your own boundaries are just going to be more and more important as we go forward, because I just hate to see designers bearing the brunt of these, conversations that tend to be out of their control, and the
yeah,
expectations being completely crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um so we want to try to give tools to designers that will help them, increase their productivity, set better boundaries, and protect their interests the best we possibly can. And that's just part of being a member of interior design community. You just join up. We do have a paid part of the group, but it's very voluntary. But really, we do it on every level. I'll work with manufacturers and give them guidelines that will help interior designers. Like, this is how interior designers need to work. Like, they have a design phase, then they have a procurement phase. Like, you might not hear from them in 2 years
Yeah.
because they're in the design phase, and
Yeah.
it's maybe that it's just ground right now.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
buying furniture, but they are coming to understand the design process. The manufacturers are learning so much too, and
Mm.
how the design process works, and that's making them more educated on how to work with designers, which is really fantastic.
Yeah. And so often it is around, like, it's really interesting, a couple of things that you've just said. Like, so often successful businesses have good boundaries, and good boundaries usually comes from having really strong systems and processes in place in your
Mm-hmm.
business, and strong communication and relationships. And that's
Yeah.
a like communication with the client, communication with suppliers. Like, it's interesting you talk about that cycle of, like, you won't talk to a supplier for 2 years because you just don't happen to have any projects that are in that phase, and then all of a sudden you'll be talking to them every week for the next 12 months kind of thing.
Right.
But that kind of having those strong systems and processes in place allow you to then develop those relationships and have that communication, and have all around just really great boundaries around your business. Because
Right.
so often, we were talking before I pressed record about, as interior designers, the place that we sit in the build process, so much is out of our control, and we cannot control so much of it. But yet we become, I think, because we talk to the client about, you know we can be in their bedroom and talking about, well, how do you want your wardrobe laid out, and all of that kind of stuff. We become almost the emotional landing, like punching bag for the project.
Sure.
And so I think strong boundaries and clear communication are so important.
Oh yeah, right up front, having that conversation about, things are going to go wrong. I'm going to see your bra on the floor. All of those things that are really personal. We're going to get personal. You're going to be upset.
Yeah.
Warning the client from the very beginning in the welcome process. Like, they've signed the contract. That's the phase where you're really telling them this is what you're educated about, what a design project looks like, but they're not.
Yeah.
So they only do it maybe once every 10 years. You're
Yeah.
doing it on a regular basis. So it's your job to make sure that they understand what that looks like. And that
Yeah.
includes prices being higher. That includes, products coming in and broken. That includes sometimes you're not going to get it when you want it. Those are things that are just absolutely going to happen, and they're out of my control and they're out of your control. And I will be your best friend in navigating that for you, but I'm not a genie.
Yeah.
I can't force anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
I can't blink and
Yeah.
and make it appear.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to be patient and understand that at the end of the day, it's furniture. At the end of the day, it's wallpaper. It's okay. We're going to get through it. I'm going to make sure, it's my job to make sure that your vision, the vision that you want to see come to life, comes to life. But keep in mind, this is all part of that. It's
Yeah.
not television. It's not, in television, that process works very differently. And those people work very hard. I know designers who work on television shows. That's a totally different animal. And they get what they get too. I mean, they might get a 7-year-old who's doing some of the painting because
Yeah.
that needs to be done in a week, and they get what they get.
Yeah.
But it's made for TV. It just needs to look good on camera. It doesn't necessarily need to be beautifully livable.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so, setting up that perception and getting the buy-in from the client from the very beginning that this is how it goes. And you're right, like, so much of that is SOPs too. Like, you want to make sure that your procedures are set, and that, if somebody is handling, if they're coming to your company and talking to you and you're a solo entrepreneur, that you have a lot of things done that are easy for you to handle that. You may want to make sure you have a great contract. You want to make sure you have a great welcome packet. You have to have a procedure of how things are going to go, when these conversations are going to happen. But if you have staff, you want to make sure that those are in place too, so that everything happens the way your brand wants to handle that.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's great that we have so many designers who are willing to share the information so that we all have, better tools, because it does make our contracts better. We have a contract share an interior design community. If you give me a contract, I will let you into this Google Drive folder with a bunch of different contracts, and you can go
Yeah.
through them, because your contracts are very much built because of problems.
Yeah.
So if I
It's
have a
so true.
problem, that's going in the contract. Well, if
Yeah.
you have a different problem, that's going in the contract. So it's like, how are we going to overcome that and know what all the problems could be, so that we
Yeah.
protect ourselves collectively?
Yeah. And I think like something you just said that I think is such a great mindset for an interior designer to get to have is that we are really like so often the clients they've never done it before, they've got zero experience with the building industry, like, or they've maybe done it before and it has gone badly or something. So much of our job is to actually kind of be the guide and the kind of the vehicle for them to go through this process smoothly, kind of thing. But
Right.
smoothly doesn't necessarily mean that absolutely everything goes to plan and is perfect. Like,
No.
it's like a good movie. There's a good start, there's a rocky bit in the middle, and then we come out at the end with, the beautiful kind of end product.
Right.
But communicating that from the start and saying, it's not all going to go to plan. There's going to be problems, but actually that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you navigate that problem well. And communicating that to the client is so important.
Oh, absolutely. I think regular communication with the clients, they understand where you are in the process. Like this, phase, even if you're not doing something, maybe you're doing something for them, but it's like, I'm in design, so I'm going to be thinking
Yeah.
during this process.
Yeah.
But just messaging them on a regular basis so that they know what's being done, how many hours are being spent on this, so that there's regular communication is really, it's going to save you some headaches. But at the end of the day, like, there are going to be things you choose not to tell the client
Yeah.
because you want to save them the headache.
Yeah.
You know that something has gone wrong, and it's not worth notifying the client about it because you can fix it, or you think you can fix it. So you need to give yourself a few days to try to see if you can fix it.
Yeah.
And so there's a balance. There's almost this like dance between being communicative and also saving them from, part of the job is saving them from
Yeah.
headaches that they don't really need to know.
Exactly. And that's ultimately why they hired you, because
Right.
they didn't want to deal with all the headaches like that.
Right.
And yeah, so I think it is kind of learning that dance and learning, how to I was talking to a designer and she said something really great the other day, which I thought was so helpful. She was like, someone had said to her that people, if you are stressed, the client's going to be stressed. So you behave the way, like, mirror the behavior that you want to see from the client. And she
Right.
was saying, in the background, I was very stressed about what was going on. Like, I thought it was going to be a big problem, but I was very calm. And she goes, it worked so well. The client, like, it worked really well because in the end the problem was resolved. But she was like, I was really stressed. But if I had had a stressed client as well, that would have just made the whole thing so much worse. And so
Sure.
it's navigating that. What do you communicate? What do you not communicate? When do you communicate it? Like, that can sometimes be the clincher. Like, yes, tell them it's a problem, but then tell them that you fixed it. So it's kind of like they're aware, but they don't have to live
Right.
through the stress of it all.
Well, yeah,
But
I think that that's part of it too, because they should, even if you solved a problem, it took you more time. That's a billable problem, right? Really? Like that's billable time.
yeah,
So maybe and I know designers who do this all the time, that the shave hours because they know that it took them longer than the client really would be prepared to be billed
yeah,
for. And that's part of maybe your loss leader of your business, and you've hopefully padded that into your pricing so you can
yeah,
expect to lose some hours sometimes. But the key is that you want to make, there's two points I want to make on that, is that you want to make sure that you are telling the client you did solve some problems, because
yeah.
nobody is going to thank a person that they don't know
No,
that the problem existed, right? So,
yeah,
you could say like, oh, we had the fabric came in and, it was snagged, but I knew that the supplier had some extra. So I went down to Boston. I got that done for you. And I'm not going to bill you for it, but put that on the invoice anyway.
Yeah.
Put an invoice, normal hourly rate, and then mark it down to zero, so that you're also building that relationship with the client. I'm giving you some stuff for free. So next time it might not be free,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So be aware of that.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it is that she felt the anxiety. I feel like there's, to a certain extent, you can't protect yourself from all of it.
Mm.
But I am telling you that mindfulness, and I know this sounds kooky because I would have thought it was kooky too a couple of
We're
years
gonna get
ago.
woo woo.
It is woo woo a little bit, but mindfulness really does work. I mean, when you think about your brain has all these neural pathways, and it's like a cow's path. Like, it's going to go, if you feel anxiety every time something goes wrong, you're always going to feel anxiety when things go wrong. But there are mental breaks you can do to change your physiological response to things so that you don't feel the anxiety. And that is really when you truly, the mind over matter situation that will make your life better. Because, yes, you should mirror that. But the more you do it, the more you practice what she did, the more you actually will feel the lack of anxiety. And that's really what you want to get to, is that this is a problem. And you need to tell yourself in the moment, this is a solvable problem.
Yeah.
In any which way. Solvable where I don't work with a client anymore. Solvable in the product is going to come in and I'm going to find a solution to return it. It's broken. I need to get it returned. And the manufacturer is going to listen to me. There's, at the end of the day, this isn't going to kill anybody. So these are all solvable problems, however they get solved. So you just have to say, I am, you're saying it to yourself, like, I am a person that solves these problems. I've solved thousands of other problems for my clients before. I know I can do this too.
Yep.
And, take your deep breaths, put ice on your forehead, whatever you have to do to make yourself break out of that, like, crazy anxiety thing that we all do. And the more you practice it, it's crazy. The better you get at it. And it just starts to be like, well, you don't want people to be able to control you with anxiety. And that is that should not be part of this job, that you have to have a sleepless night worried about pillows. Come on.
Exactly. Like, we're not,
you're human.
We're human. And it is, I think sometimes we lose that. Like, and I do understand, like, for the clients, they're spending a lot of money, and them, it's a big investment for them. But so often it's like, do we really, like, there's many problems in the world, and the fact that your cushion is going to be 2 weeks late is not one of them.
Right.
And I think
it isn't.
I think sometimes we can help our clients put things into perspective a little bit as well.
Sure. And I think if your part of that is in the beginning, when you explain these things are going to happen, and reminding them, hey, remember when I told you those things would happen? This is it. This is what happens. It happens every project. Don't feel like you're unique in this. It's going to happen with everybody. You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to get those pillows. It's just not going to be today.
Exactly.
That's just going to be.
And that, it's so interesting. It is a story that you need to be telling them all along. You can't
all the time.
tell them in the moment, oh, this always happens, because that is not going to end well for you.
No.
But if you have been talking about this and making it sound, or not making it sound, just reiterating
it's normal.
Very normal part of the process.
Right. It is part of it. I'm there. Here's what's great about it, is you have somebody on your side to try to navigate this problem for you. That's what you've hired, is somebody on your side to navigate the problem, to deal with it for you. And I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. That's why you hired me. Yeah. And that sometimes is enough for them but not always. I mean, not always. I had a designer who talked about it today. We had I think you probably saw, we had a couple major hurricanes here in the United States. And one of the factories got destroyed.
Yeah, right.
And There's a designer with a client that had an order with an existing factory that we don't know what's going to happen. And
Mm.
she may be upset that the client is upset because, let's face it, this was a hurricane. People died.
Yeah.
But, people, when you're talking about a luxury client, sometimes their expectations are, I want it now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're
Exactly.
dealing with difficult people, and you have to balance when is right to say, look, you have hired me. I'm doing the best thing that I can do, but also, caring, having more patience and having more empathy to the situation is going to help a lot. But,
Yeah.
something we don't acknowledge a lot is that there's a huge power imbalance in the interior design industry. And,
Mm.
I know so many designers who work with billionaires, millionaires who are quick with litigation,
Yeah.
certainly here in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's scary, that power balance that designers are faced working with people who have a lot more resources than they do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, could crush them at any moment. And that's
Yeah.
the balancing act that's very, very unspoken and terrifying
It is.
underneath all of it.
Yeah. And look, I think so often, I have a background in like high-end residential. So I've worked with
Sure.
clients like that. And sometimes I think does like if you don't work in that at that level, you're like, oh, it must be amazing, like all of these big budgets. And it's like, you know what? There's a different level of stress. Like, yes, it's amazing to be able to spec these beautiful products and all that kind of stuff. But you're right, there is this real imbalance, and it is a different type of dance that can be very hard to navigate as a designer. And
It is.
I don't think it isn't talked about a lot, kind of thing. But yeah, it's a really
It isn't.
interesting part of the
It's really
industry.
like it's an unspoken thing, especially at the highest end of luxury.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important thing because luxury design is the aspiration of all interior designers. They all want to be at that level.
Yeah.
They all want to be servicing the billionaires and the millionaire, the multi-millionaires out there, and getting to design their vacation houses and their yachts and being flown on
Yeah.
private planes and getting to spec gorgeous products and going to showrooms that are so beautiful. But it comes with a cost, and it comes with a dance that you're right that you have to maintain. And sometimes it's just not fair, and sometimes those expectations are going, we can all say, I'm going to have strict boundaries, and
Yeah.
we're all going to say that, but at the end of the day, sometimes you can't, because this is a client that could really hurt your business.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part, is try to manage that, but at the same time, know what you're capable of taking on when you're capable of taking it on. If this client is really, really demanding, and you're not in the headspace right now to take a client like that on, even though the project is super attractive and is going to photograph well and is a next level project or whatever that might be, sometimes it's better to say no. Sometimes it's better to have a few of different kinds of clients too. I mean, we're doing, one of the talks we're doing at High Point is how you can build insane revenue. It's a Cheryl, who's a coach with her thing is Damn Good Designer, and she's a design coach that I know, and I've known her for a long time, and she has a lot of like upper middle class clients, and she is going to talk a lot about how to build revenue with those types of clients, where they're not necessarily very luxury, but you can churn them out, and churn out their projects, and they're very easy to work with, and that kind
And
of thing.
I think that's something that's really interesting. Like, I talk a lot about defining what success means for you, but
Sure.
that success doesn't have to stay the same. So,
No.
um, for someone, maybe you're in a season with small children, and that is a demanding family requirement. So having super demanding clients is most probably going to be hard for you to juggle in that season. So
Right.
maybe doing smaller projects that you can move through more quickly, and with clients that are slightly easier to manage, that is the thing to focus on in that season. And then
Sure.
as you progress through your family life, it might be actually now we're kind of at the time where I do want to take on bigger clients or bigger projects kind of thing. But I think the thing that to remember is like when you're in that season, when you might be working with smaller projects, that's when you get your systems and processes down pat. And that's where you get your contracts watertight and you do all of that stuff because
Yes.
the risk is lower. And it might feel scary at the time, but like then if you move to a project where the budget is 10 times what you're working on, the risk is higher and you don't want to be working stuff out when you're at that point. So I think
No.
it's really interesting, that concept of like, yes, I think it is very aspirational to move towards working for those bigger and bigger and bigger budgets, but it's not always the dream that we think it's going to be.
No. I mean, I have listened to more luxury designers cry
Yeah.
than probably anybody has in the world. I have hugged so many published luxury designers
Yeah.
in moments of need. I've FaceTimed, I've texted, I've been a support system for designers privately. I know it's hard all the way around, and that's just part of the job. But
Mhm.
it isn't. It's learning what is right for you. It's
Yeah.
learning what is going to um, make you more at peace, and it's learning where to cut that emotional tie too. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is just being a shoulder to cry on, because you know what, it is a stressful job, and it's not going to ever not be a stressful job. There's just no way around. I mean, people see the beauty of it, they don't see the pain
Yeah.
that it takes to make the beauty.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. I think that as much beauty as designers put in the world, it's wonderful to know that they care as much about the process as and I think you're right. It's putting those processes in place so that when you grow, and also giving yourself a little credit that this is what
Yes.
you can do right now,
Yeah.
and that's okay. You don't
Yeah.
have to. I think designers often have this FOMO, putting pressure on themselves situation, where they're constantly measuring their success against another designer's success. And I have even seen it go to the point where they won't even put the work up because they're afraid of it being judged
Yeah.
by other designers, and what they might think, or what client might think, or how it might not get them the next client. And it's just
Yeah.
like, you've got to let that go. I mean, the work is the work that you did, and you're going to grow in the way that it needs to grow. And no business is going to look exactly the same.
No. No.
No, and no designer has the same journey. So it's okay to cut it out in the way that makes sense for you and your life.
Yeah. And that's
You know,
and that's the joy of owning your own business. Like
sure,
that really is the joy. And I find it so hard when designers are kind of like that joy has gone because they're just a slave to the clients. And it's like that's not
right.
like go and get a design job, go and work for someone else because it's not worth it.
Start carving out those moments for yourself that bring that creativity back to your lives. And I think this is true of so many women in business in general. I mean, we all have to do a little bit better job. I call it romancing yourself, because I think it's just like, you know, it's like the Miley Cyrus, I can buy my own flowers. You
Yeah.
can buy your own flowers. You
Hi.
can set a playlist and listen to music while you have lunch.
Yeah.
You can go for a walk in the fall leaves and look out at the lake. There's so many things that you can do in your day to day to take those moments of peace for yourself, whether it's, a cup of coffee that you really enjoy, or a favorite book that you want to reread during a time of stress, or a favorite comfort show on television, something that is warm and gooey and feels good to you.
Yeah.
Um, those are important for mental health breaks. They are important to to make sure you are on creative journey. You know, we
Yeah.
are all creatives, and that creativity has to come from somewhere. It has to have moments of quiet, moments of thoughtful reflection, moments of beauty that are outside of the industry. And if you just get into the weeds too much of like, this isn't coming in on time, and this is the pillows came in and it was manufactured incorrectly, and you know, all of these stressors, you have to make sure you kind of compartmentalize
Yeah.
that and give yourself still, even in the weeds, those moments of peace, because it robs you of the joy of this industry if you don't.
Yeah. So, so true. Oh my gosh, so true. So tell me, what excites you about our industry at the moment?
You know, I think it's the people more than anything else. I think designers are the most wonderful people that anyone could ever meet. You know, I tell people that all the time. I just think the designers are more giving, more creative, more kind. You know, they truly want to make the world a more beautiful place. It's just the truth. And they
Yeah.
think about things very thoughtfully. They care so much. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I know
Sometimes too much.
it's too much. They do, but they do. And it's exciting to work with people who have that level of caring. And we talked about like a love letter to clients and wanting them to understand, you know, designers really are the only professional that would work on your house that would actually buy something for your house. They would buy something because it had to be there, because it's their art too, and they want that rug,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
light
Yeah.
fixture. You know, it matters to designers so much that it be beautiful, and that it be functional, and that the space serve the need of the client. And while other professionals that are working on that space care too, and it's their craft as well, I think that a designer's level of care is just so much more magnified. And I wish that clients understood that perspective. I mean, nobody doesn't want the table to come in and be broken more than the designer, because they know, number one, they're going to lose money because they have to
Yeah.
now chase down returning it and getting it replaced.
Yeah.
But number two, they want you to have that beautiful functional space.
Yeah.
That's the vision. That's what they,
Yeah.
you know, that's the whole vision, you know,
Yeah.
and that has to happen. It has to be, you know, in the physical space, and to exist for the designer.
Yeah.
That has to come to fruition. That's the end, right? That's the end of that beautiful movie.
Yeah.
So they care so much. And that's wonderful to work with people that are that way. They care so much. You
Yeah.
know, I think that's the best part of the industry is just how these wonderful creative people care and give so much of themselves and want the result to be so beautiful, and care about their clients so much that they get to know everything that they can about the client so that they have the best experience. I mean, who else does that? Your contractor
Yeah.
doesn't care.
No.
They don't care.
A little bit, but really no. Oh, it's so, so true. And what are you looking forward to for the next 12 months with interior design community?
Well, you know, I think that we want to do a little bit more in, you know, COVID-19, we were all home. We're trying, I think more and more people are coming back into trade events. So we're going to be doing a lot more trade events. I'd like to see interior design community have our own conference, our own retreats, things that will bring people together, like-minded business women and men who can share experiences and learn from one another and have those in-person relationships, because so much of us, you know, we're all online and we're all connecting online, but it's those, once you meet in person, it just changes the whole dynamic. I mean,
It really does. It
it's
really,
so
really does.
great. It's so great. And you learn so much from each other when you can be face to face, and the bond of
Yeah.
that, and the creativity that comes from those touchstone moments. And we want to be a facilitator of that as well for our community. And that is an intention for us. We want to be at more trade shows. We want to be able to be, you know, help facilitate more experiences like that for designers so that they can meet face to face and have those relationships and those actual friendships where they can
Yeah.
call each other up and, oh my gosh, I have a crazy client.
Yeah.
Help me.
That's the thing. Like the husband or the best friend, they don't understand the crazy client. You need
They
another
don't.
interior designer
They
to
don't.
kind of go, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yes, you want to have those friendships, and that's what I try to facilitate more and more and more. We do this thing like every quarter called let's follow each other on Instagram,
Yeah.
and the amount of messages I get afterwards were like, my feed has totally changed. I get to see designers work and I love it. Or and then I'll see designers who've met through the community at different events. And even like my favorite thing in the world is when two designers who met through interior design community see each other socially, like just out
So good.
on vacation together, or they make sure to see each other because they're in the same city, or that kind of thing is like, I just love it. So I love it. It's like,
so nice.
I'll get a text from we're together. It's just like, it's like makes my day every time.
Very, very cool.
I love it.
Thank you so much for joining me, Laurie. I really could keep talking to you for a lot longer. It is really lovely that, interior designers in America, we're having the same problems as we're having here and the same joy as well. So it was so lovely chatting to you, Laurie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next design dialogue.